Mom, thank you for loving me so much until now. It was Candace's wedding. A girl who is not my biological daughter but a precious being I have raised since she was 6 years old. Receiving a surprise gift at the wedding filled my heart. But as soon as the ceremony ended, my husband Patrick suddenly lashed out at me with cruel words. "You're no longer needed, I want a divorce." "Thanks for being an ATM for a stranger," my husband chuckled, smiling smugly. Even though I knew why, I couldn't help but look hurt. "What? Why so suddenly?" Confused. "I can't stand living with a woman who's neither sexy nor interesting anymore. I'll give you moving expenses as compensation, so just get out," Patrick continued. I was struggling to hold back laughter inside, but Patrick mistook my trembling for shock. I decided to use this misconception to begin my plan for revenge. "All right, I agree to the divorce," I said, signing the divorce papers. "My name is Dorothy Baker. I am a 440-year-old kindergarten teacher and a typical housewife, even though I am self-conscious about my slightly old-fashioned name. I married Patrick when I was 23. Patrick, 15 years my senior, was 38 at the time. We met at a bar I frequented. As we got to talking, I learned that his wife had left him 4 years earlier, and he was raising his daughter with the help of his parents. Patrick often complained about his long work hours and how his mother, the girl's grandmother, had to take care of her. He felt sorry for his daughter and didn't know how to play with her. As a kindergarten teacher, I couldn't just listen to this and do nothing. I asked Patrick if I could spend my days off playing with her. Candace, his daughter, was a well-mannered child. She was initially shy, but soon warmed up to me and enjoyed playing. She seemed intelligent for her age, and I was impressed by her mature responses. As I frequently played with Candace, I grew closer to Patrick, and he eventually asked me out. Before accepting, I wanted to know how Candace felt. "Hey Candace, can we talk for a moment?" I asked. "Sure, Dorothy," she replied with a friendly smile. "Would it be okay if your dad and I started dating?" I asked, hoping she would be okay with it. "What, will Dorothy become my mom?" Candace asked, looking a bit worried. I was prepared to accept the role, even though we weren't planning to marry immediately. I reassured her. Candace's worried expression turned into a smile. "I'm so happy you will become my mom. When will you move in?" she asked excitedly. "Tomorrow." "Not tomorrow, but hopefully someday." I was concerned about her reaction, but I assumed it was just her anxiety about possibly losing her father. I had no idea that her expression held a completely different meaning at that time. Within a year I became pregnant, which led to our marriage. I officially adopted Candace, becoming her mother on paper. Candace was thrilled about the birth of her sibling and talked to my belly every day. "Hey baby, it's your big sister. Can you hear me?" "Oh, it moved. It heard you." "Really?" "Yeah. You know, I've thought of a name for the baby." She said this with a beaming smile. I felt a strong desire to protect that smile. However, Patrick's reaction was the complete opposite. "Hey, why haven't you mopped the floor? Slacking off again?" "Sorry, I'm just not feeling well today." "Ah, another excuse." "I let you keep working, so at least do your household duties properly. Pregnancy isn't an illness." Once we started living together, the gentlemanly Patrick was nowhere to be found. He became a tyrant, not lifting a finger to help around the house. He demanded I prepare even his clothes and socks for the next day, and I realized for the first time that he never took care of Candace. Reflecting on it, whenever the three of us went out, I was the one caring for her, and I never saw them holding hands. I had a bad feeling. "Candace, have you ever played with Dad?" "Nope, he's always busy with work." "But Grandma always played with me, and now I have you, so it's fun." "I see." The truth about Patrick, who I thought was devoted to his child, was that he spent his time on work and hobbies, leaving child rearing to his parents. Now he simply shifted that responsibility to me. It was then that I finally understood the meaning behind Candace's attitude when I told her about dating Patrick, and when we informed our in-laws about our remarriage and pregnancy. Despite the birth of our second daughter Kim, Patrick never showed any interest in her, leaving all the household and childcare responsibilities to me, while immersing himself in work and hobbies. Not a day passed when I didn't feel like I had failed in my marriage, but I never regretted becoming Candace's mother. For 16 years, I devoted myself to housework, childcare, and my job. I barely had any time for myself, but watching my daughters grow up was the joy of my life. It seemed that Patrick had been cheating on me since Candace was in high school. When I found out, I wasn't shocked at all. I had no love left for Patrick, but I didn't choose divorce because I wanted to be with Candace. Then Candace, soon after starting her job, brought home a boyfriend she wanted to introduce to me. Her boyfriend Scott was her college classmate the same age as her. He was a kind, well-mannered young man who clearly cared deeply for Candace. Thank you for raising Candace. I've heard all about her past from her, and I respect you as my mother-in-law. I would like to be a part of your family too. I thought to myself that Scott was someone I could trust Candace with, as he bowed his head. That night, Candace approached me shyly and said, "Mom, Scott is a childcare worker. He loves children just like you, and is very kind to them. Is that so?" I asked. "That's wonderful. Be happy," Candace replied with a radiant smile, making me genuinely feel that all my efforts were worth it. At the same time, I made the decision to divorce Patrick after Candace's wedding. I already had all the evidence I needed. All that was left was to inform the people around me. While helping with Candace's wedding preparations, I also worked on my divorce plans secretly. Then, on the day of Candace's wedding, she was the most beautiful and happiest bride anyone could imagine. Just seeing her made me cry non-stop. "Mom, thank you for loving me so much until now," Candace said to me at the wedding. As I watched the girl I had raised since she was 6 years old, not my biological daughter, I felt overwhelmed with emotion, especially after receiving a surprise gift. However, as soon as the ceremony ended, my husband Patrick suddenly hurled heartless words at me. "You're no longer needed. I want a divorce. Thanks for being an ATM to a stranger," he said with a smug laugh. Despite knowing the reason, I couldn't help but show a hurt expression. "What? Why so suddenly?" I asked. "I can't stand living with a woman who's neither sexy nor interesting anymore. I'll give you moving expenses as alimony, so just get out," Patrick continued. Inside, I was struggling to hold back laughter, but Patrick mistook my trembling for shock. I decided to use this misconception to start my plan for revenge. "All right, I agree to the divorce," I said calmly. After saying that, I signed the divorce papers. The next day, I moved out immediately with Kim. As a minimalist, Kim and I had very few belongings, so we didn't need to call a moving company. After settling into our new home, I looked at the divorce papers in my hand and chuckled. Originally, Patrick had said he would file the divorce papers, but I humbly asked to do it myself. I put the papers in an envelope and contacted my lawyer. I had planned to initiate the divorce about a week after the wedding, so I had already informed my lawyer. I told the lawyer that Patrick's actions had accelerated the plan, and that I had already informed everyone involved. After that, I filed the divorce papers, completed the non-acceptance procedure, and enjoyed lunch with Kim. While walking home and chatting with Kim, I received a call from Candace. "Mom, is it okay if I come over now?" "Yes, of course." After I answered, Candace said she would come with Scott, and hung up. A few minutes later, they arrived at our house, followed shortly by the rest of the cohabitants moving in with the movers. After the movers left, we had an early divorce celebration party. A few days later, I received a furious call from Patrick. At first I ignored it, but he kept calling relentlessly, so I answered. "Who may I ask is calling?" What are you saying? You don't recognize your own husband?" "I'm sorry, but I don't know you. I'm single." Patrick was clearly grinding his teeth in frustration over the phone, but he quickly started ranting. "Hey, I can't reach Candace or my mom. They told me to leave the house and my parents' house is empty." "What's going on?" As I had the phone on speaker, Patrick's voice echoed in the living room. The first to respond was not me, but Candace. "Dad, did you enjoy your trip with the young girl?" That voice. "Candace, what are you doing? She's a stranger now. What are you talking about?" "Dorothy is my mom. Even if you and she are divorced, our adoption doesn't change you." For the first time since Kim was born, I felt nostalgic when Candace called me Dorothy. Faced with Candace's first act of rebellion, Patrick seemed confused. Candace, with a look of complete contempt, spoke into the phone. "Even if we are blood related, I don't acknowledge you as my family. I know how much Mom suffered and how she endured it for me, My family is Mom, Kim, Scott, and my grandparents. What? You didn't tell my parents unnecessary things, did you? Patrick seemed completely flustered. Candace, having said everything she wanted, looked at me and nodded. Taking a moment, I spoke to Patrick. It seems I did something terrible, didn't I? Taking your child away from you. Oh, but that's what happened with your previous wife too. Right? What are you talking about? Actually, I found something while doing my research. I found Candace's biological mother. She was crying when I met her. She was so scared of you that she decided to divorce you. Then while she was at work the next day, you took Candace away and never responded to her attempts to contact you. That's nonsense. She said that you promised to give Candace back if she signed the divorce papers. Once she did, you disappeared again, only sending her an email with the account for child support payments, never letting her see Candace again. Patrick remained silent on the other end of the phone, unable to argue, with only his heavy breathing audible. Audible. You know, I never received any living expenses or child support from you. Where did all that money go, I wonder? What are you trying to say? It's my money, I can do what I want with it. I'm appalled. So you mean, it all went to your affairs and gifts for your girlfriend? Patrick could only shout, "Shut up!" in response, utterly unable to deny it and completely brazen. Just as I was about to press him further, one of the new cohabitants, my mother-in-law, spoke up. Enough of this. What, Mom? My mother-in-law wasn't the type to get angry. She was always smiling and would only show a troubled smile in difficult times. Her stern, emotionless face and calm speech were frightening, not just to me, but to everyone else present. You said that Candace's mother had an affair and left, so you never wanted her to see Candace again, didn't you? I just found out about the child support now. I was shocked when Dorothy told me. I never imagined the truth was the complete opposite. Mom, listen. There's a reason for this. What possible reason could justify taking a child away from her loving mother? Don't be ridiculous. Her sudden outburst left Patrick speechless. Even my father-in-law seemed surprised, suggesting it was rare for her to raise her voice. Stay away from my daughter and grandchildren forever. I'm cutting all ties with you. But I'm your only child. My only child is Dorothy. What? I had lost my parents in a car accident before reaching adulthood. Since Kim's birth, my mother-in-law had been helping me. Anyway, this is the end of our relationship with you. What? Dorothy, what unnecessary things did you tell Mom? Dorothy only told me the truth. Given your behavior, I'll let the lawyer handle further communication with you. Goodbye. With that, she unilaterally hung up the phone. Patrick called back immediately, but my mother-in-law smiled and took me to a mobile shop to buy a new phone. A few days later, the lawyer informed me that the payment of damages from Patrick's affair partner had been confirmed. She was 24 years old, 16 years younger than me, the same age as Candace. I was speechless when I learned that Patrick had gotten involved with someone my daughter's age. Both Candace and Kim were equally stunned. Although they probably didn't want to know about their father's affair, it was Candace who had unfortunately witnessed it. She had such a strong aversion that she asked her grandfather to walk her down the aisle at her wedding at the last minute, instead of Patrick. The affair partner had been told by Patrick that he was separated because his daughter and wife were oppressing her. Patrick had rented a separate apartment for the affair, originally for his own use, and then another one as a love nest with his affair partner. No wonder there was no money left for the house. The affair partner, who relied on Patrick for living expenses and accommodation, had been spending all her salary on hosts, leaving her with no savings. The damages had to be paid back by her parents. In return, she had to stop visiting nightclubs and work at a relative's inn to repay the money. The lawyer said she was going to leave Patrick's place the next day, so she must have already left. Patrick should have received a similar demand for damages. He must be panicking about the payment. I chuckled at the thought. However, Patrick's next move was beyond my expectations. The next day at work, the kindergarten director approached me. "Ms. Baker, can we talk? A man claiming to be a father has made a complaint to our management. He says that you kidnapped his daughter, Candace. I'd like to hear your side." I burst out laughing when I heard this. Kim, being a minor, could have warranted such a claim, but Candace was a 23-year-old adult woman who had already married. I couldn't stop laughing at such a ridiculous false accusation. Miss Baker, I'm sorry, Director. That Candace, she's my adopted daughter. She's already an adult and recently got married. I'm divorced now. That caller is probably my ex-husband. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I see. That must have been tough. I'll explain it properly to the headquarters. And remember, if there's anything, don't hesitate to talk to me. I'll help you. Thank you, Director. I felt grateful to be in such a supportive workplace. I immediately contacted my lawyer and asked the director to obtain the harassing voice recording from the headquarters, planning to add it to the damages claim. Patrick kept denying everything until the end, saying, "It wasn't me." However, with the evidence of his voice, the police easily issued a restraining order against him. Patrick continued to harass us in various ways despite this, but his repeated nuisance acts led the police to take action, and he was eventually arrested for illegally entering his former home. Once arrested, his company could not ignore even a minor crime, leading to his dismissal. After losing his job, Patrick had to let go of the apartment he shared with his affair partner, and couldn't afford to keep his own place either. Desperate, he contacted Candace. At first, Candace looked genuinely disgusted, but her expression quickly changed as she had an idea. She picked up the phone. "Hello? What is it, Candace? Where are you now?" "I'm in trouble. I'll come and live with you, so give me your address." He seemed to have made a complaint. He seemed to have completely forgotten about being rejected previously. Candace glanced at us and smiled. Then she dropped a bombshell. "I'm pregnant. 4 months," she said, "but it's a pity. You're a stranger now, so it doesn't concern you." "What?" "The grandchild. It better be a boy. I won't accept it if it's not. Did you hear me? I've cut ties with you. I have no intention of letting you meet my child, and I'm blocking your calls. Don't contact me ever again. And you, who do you think paid for your upbringing until now?" Candace continued. "That would be Mom, obviously." At Candace's words, Patrick could only emit an inarticulate cry. Candace simply said goodbye and hung up. "Wait, Candace. This is the first I'm hearing about your pregnancy." I asked. "Yeah, I just said it for the first time." "What?" I was shocked. "Well, I just found out myself after visiting the gynecologist." Everyone present was stunned. Scott cried tears of joy, Kim and I hugged and cheered, and the grandparents smiled gently, happy about the upcoming birth of their great-grandchild. It was a surprise for everyone and a farewell gift for Dad. "Shocked?" Candace asked, grinning as if pleased with her successful prank. "I'm shocked," I replied. "Congratulations, big sis," Kim said, hugging her with tears in her eyes. As I watched the two of them, I felt a warm sensation in my heart, as if my marriage to Patrick was all for this day. 6 months later, we successfully obtained the full compensation payment from Patrick. It seems he borrowed money from financial institutions and is now burdened with repayments. Without money, no women are drawn to Patrick anymore, and he's completely alone with no one to help him. He once showed up at Kim's school, but the school reported him as a suspicious person to the police, and he retreated, never to be seen again. Kim is diligently studying French, pursuing her dream of becoming an interpreter and aiming to take us, her sister and brother-in-law, on a world tour. Ever since the grandparents moved in, they have been helping with household chores and sharing the mortgage payments. My mother-in-law and I argue sometimes, but we also go shopping together, just like a real mother and daughter. She encourages me to remarry, saying, "Do whatever you want, but I want to stay with them until they're gone, so I'm not considering remarriage for now." Candace safely gave birth to her first child, a beautiful baby girl named Dora. I wanted this child to be strong and kind like my mom, and that's why I chose a similar name. As I watched Candace and Scott laugh together, I shed tears of joy. As for me, I'm still working as a kindergarten teacher on the front lines. There are offers to become a head teacher or director, but I refuse them, as I find being closely involved with the children more important. The children at the kindergarten are so adorable, reminding me of Candace and Kim when they were little. That's why I strongly want to stay on the field. Teacher Dorothy, let's go outside. Okay, let's go. Smiling at the little hands that reach out to me, I continue to watch over the children's growth every day.